Story 1. He capitalized every word of every text like this, and when confronted offered the explanation, "I just really care about grammar." Straight to jail. Story 2. A girl in my class had the exact same color of hair as me and a similar physique. But her mother let her get the mid-2000s spiky, not quite gothic, but still sort of gothic hairdo. Until then, we were just two skinny blondes with ponytails. Then she was hot and cool, and I did not like her anymore. Story 3. She refused to watch The Godfather because she did not like movies that glorify groupthink. That is not what groupthink means. Story 4. This couple decided to throw a huge party at her house. Instead of letting us use the indoor bathroom, she put out a portable toilet far from the party area. When there was a line for the toilet, I asked to use her indoor bathroom. She said that no one could come inside. Then I watched as she let other people I knew go in and out of her house. If you are not comfortable with people using your restroom, do not host. Story 5. He wore cowboy hats and boots, dressed like a cowboy but not a real cowboy, more like a city slicker trying to be one, and made everyone call him Cowboy Name. He grew up in suburban Connecticut and has never set foot on a ranch. Story 6. He was drop-dead gorgeous. We were friends, and I was insanely envious of his looks. Flawless skin, flashing white straight teeth, and a body to die for. God, I hated him. I was so self-conscious around him. Then one day he, another friend, and I were at a restaurant when the waitress asked for our orders. He ordered a burger and she said, "Would you like a hamburger or a cheeseburger?" He looked at her and said, "How are they different?" I was so happy. Finally, a flaw. He was an absolute moron. Story 7. A girl walked into the party really late and grabbed one of my beers from the fridge. It was the casual, happy, sneaky way she did it. I decided right then and there that she was not to be trusted. Ever. Story 8. He told me he liked my hoodie, then asked if my sister was single. After that, I was done talking to him. Story 9. He pushed my dog. He was getting a lift from me and was sitting in the back with my dog. He was drunk and decided to shove my little French bulldog off him with force. I became very angry and kicked him out in the middle of nowhere, literally miles from his destination. He has tried to apologize and make amends with me since, but he can forget it. Story 10. Went on a date with a man who said he did not eat vegetables. If you do not have a relationship with vegetables, you do not have a relationship with me. Story 11. My coworker always had a full face of makeup. Every time she took a bite or sip, she opened her mouth very wide with duck lips to avoid messing up her lip gloss and lipstick. Story 12. We were at a day-long training and we had ice and water on the table. This person chewed ice the entire day. Story 13. Always said, by accident. Remember, A and B are alphabet neighbors, and O and P are alphabet neighbors. By accident or on purpose. Story 14. Always being a little rude to me, but not rude enough for me to complain to anyone about it without sounding delusional. I was also the only person that the other person was rude to. Story 15. Her hair was just a bit more blonde and a bit curlier than mine, and she was a few inches taller. Until she arrived, I was the special curly toe-headed good girl. She was very nice and we hung out. People thought we were sisters or cousins. But inside, I hated her so much for being what I perceived as a little bit better looking than me. I was 12 or 13 years old at the time. Story 16. To be fair, I recently unfollowed someone who is trying to be a mother influencer because she keeps posting inappropriate content like, "Come wash my baby's clothes with me." I can assure you nobody who is busy cares. Story 17. He had a posture where his shoulders were up by his ears. I hated it because it made me feel stressed. Story 18. I'd say something normal and she would crack up laughing. Then, when I actually made a joke, she would do a really fake laugh that pissed me off. Story 19. I have had many bad interactions with people named Paul, so if your name is Paul, I am biased against you. Sorry to all the good Pauls out there. Story 20. Her dog had a skin condition. She tried to blame it on something medical, but it definitely looked like scabs from fleas or mange. It made me not want to be around her. Story 21. There is a local group of friends who are metal music fans like me. Only one of them greets me when we meet on the street, and I only like him. Story 22. I always go home with a tension headache from any family party because some people always want to be part of everyone else's conversations and never stop talking. I cannot unhear them and have to leave the room when it gets really bad. I know it is my problem. No one else seems to mind the noise. Story 23. They had the same name as someone related to some traumas in my life. Sadly, it made it impossible for me to be at ease, to be honest. Story 24. Because on our first date, within 20 minutes of sitting down, she decided to start mocking me because I did not watch a lot of movies. Give me a hard time for something I did not know much about when we could have bonded over her talking about all the movies she really liked. Story 25. Honestly, it was the vibe. I just had a feeling I did not want him on my team. A few months after I quit that job, my friend told me he had cheated on his girlfriend, a fellow employee in the department, in her car with his ex who he apparently lived with. He did a bunch of heroin, then made several odd phone calls and direct messages to coworkers and supervisors. He was wandering the streets the following day and calling the office, saying he was going to hurt himself. A couple of supervisors had to assist local police in finding his location so they could get him to a hospital. No one saw it coming. I just kept him out of the venue because something felt off. Also, I don't trust people named Brittany or any other varied spelling of the name. Story 26. It did not really make me dislike her, but I once ended a relationship because she made me watch Jersey Shore. I realized we had nothing in common and were wasting our time. Story 27. They give me weird vibes, nothing else. They just give me an odd feeling. I'm not meaning your usual weirdo. I mean normal people. My prime example is Link from Good Mythical Morning. I don't know what it is about him, but something tells me he's not good and I shouldn't like him. Another, smaller but more recent example is the knitting cult lady on TikTok. She is a knitter who talks about current politics and parades around her expertise since she was in the military. I watched her about 3 times before I realized I felt the same way towards her. Edit. Oh, just thought of another reason I don't like someone. They are associated with someone I also dislike. There is this guy I went to school with. He was okay and seemed nice enough, but I don't like him because one of his brothers-in-law is married to a bunch of people I despise for valid, non-petty reasons, including legal issues. It sucks too because his wife is really nice, and I was actually friends with her younger brother for a bit. Oddly enough, I don't have an issue with his wife or her little brother, just him for some weird reason. Story 28. I hate when people sign all their forum and social media comments like, "Sincerely and best wishes, Judy 5842, every single time. I know it is older people, but it still makes me crazy. Story 29. She brought her own vegan snacks to a mutual friend's house. No problem at all. More power to you. Then she picked all the cheese off the margarita pizza I brought. Story 30. My dislike for some people is reasonable. They gave me a reason to dislike them. But now that I do not like you, the pettiness is what I express while not liking you. Oh. Insert name. Found $100 on the ground. Me, no, that was my money. It was not. Insert name. Says the sky is blue. Me, the sky is various colors depending on the weather, so they are incorrect. Story 31. Some people I dislike because their hair looks so bad. For whatever reason, it kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. Cannot look at it. I wonder how they look in the mirror and think it is good. I am pretty sure I am the one with the perception problem, but my eyeball and my brain just freak out about it. I do not know how to fix that. Story 32. He went to a good high school, graduated from college, had good parents who I am sure read to him, and did not know many common words. Story 33. There is a particular Korean actor, Park Bo-gum. I am not fond of him because of his teeth. They are very white and straight, which is unsettling to me. He looks like a Ken doll when he smiles. At one point, my friends used to scare me by sending pictures of him smiling to trigger me. Story 34. A former coworker had a daily chip-eating habit. At the same hour every day, he would be sitting on the other side of the cubicle wall from me, crinkling the snack-sized bag. I don't know how or why those bags are so loud, but it was extra irritating. and he crinkled it as if trying to climb inside. I couldn't stand that person. Story 35. She only said hello to men on our block. I was not the only one who disliked her, though she was already cursed out by someone's wife. Story 36. He was the cool new guy in our friend group and was dating my best friend from the same group. My jealousy went through the roof. Story 37. Years ago, my best friend's girlfriend, really his first girlfriend, could not take a joke. Anyone except him who said anything remotely funny, she would reprimand. Story 38. She is a narcissist and also incredibly unintelligent. When the total eclipse happened last year, she walked into work that morning, talking to me as she always does, and asked with a completely straight face, "For this eclipse this week, what is the bright yellow thing and what is the bright white thing that are opposite each other?" My reply was, "You mean the sun and the moon?" I thought my own brain was going to explode. Story 39. She got the internship I wanted. It was not her fault. I just did not like her overall, but that was a defining moment. Story 40. His name was spelled Joshua. Made never having seen Star Wars or Game of Thrones their entire personality. Made fun of people who pronounced words incorrectly and called them stupid but pronounced nuclear as no Kylar. Loud keyboard. Story 41. I don't know if this is petty or valid. A former friend of mine likes to call herself a feminist but quietly shames other women. Story 42. He stopped dead in the middle of sentences, pausing painfully long each time. Looking back, I assume he had a speech impediment or some neurological issue. He was a perfectly nice guy, but I just could not take it. I wanted to shake him or strangle him. Nobody else seemed even slightly bothered by it, which somehow made it worse. Wherever you are, I am sorry. Just do not ask for a verbal apology. Story 43. I work as a teacher's assistant for special education students. I have several. There is one classroom where the teacher never lines the students up to leave until after the bell has rung. Then, she has them all give her a fist bump or high five on the way out. None of US, assistants included, leave until she is ready to stand near the door and let the students out one by one while the rest of the school streams past in the hallway. She also wants them to be lined up nicely and quietly before she lets them out, which takes forever because she has 5 students with behavior individualized education programs and because school is out, so the hall outside the door is very noisy with 3rd graders. It drives me insane. She is an otherwise competent teacher, but this frustrates me. Once, we were watching 5-minute science videos at the end of the day. One ended. There were 3 minutes left until the bell rang. I looked at the clock, then at her. She looked at the clock and started another 5-minute video. I was ready to scream. There is also a resource teacher who substitutes sometimes. Although I know the routine in the class she substitutes for and the instructions for almost everything, every time she gets confused with the lesson plan, she has the students read or do educational games on their computers instead of letting me help her at all. Thank God she retired this year. Story 44. Sometimes I meet someone and just know automatically that I do not like them. I cannot always pinpoint why initially, but I always see the reason later. Story 45. She wore way too much makeup. You couldn't tell what she looked like underneath. She liked cheap plastic jewelry and thought she was better than anyone else, but she was not. I have no idea why my uncle married her. Story 46. I disliked a firefighter I dated because he only wore black jeans and firefighter t-shirts. It was petty. He was the nicest guy, but I had just gotten out of an abusive relationship, and it seemed like everything he did annoyed me. He brought me a dozen roses on our first date. I was annoyed. He actually went out and bought blue jeans for me and gave me a firefighter shirt. I still have it nearly 20 years later to remind myself of the good people out there. I contacted him later to explain why I was so difficult and how sorry I was. Even his breathing annoyed me. Story 47. Anytime I have disliked a woman for being better than me, I still struggle with that, but I see it for what it is now. Story 48. I have a client who sends me 4 or 5 texts in a row when they only need to send 1 or 2 paragraphs in a single message. I can always tell when it is them contacting me because my phone's notification sounds go off every 10 seconds, 5 or 6 times. It is really annoying. To make things worse, The first text is always, "Hi." Story 49. We took ballet together, and she was unnaturally flexible without ever stretching. I hated her. We became friends later, and she told me she had hated me because she thought I was really good at ballet. We are still very good friends 20 years later. Story 50. Once, I worked really hard on an assignment on a topic I loved in high school. I got the second best grade and decided I did not like the girl who had the best grade because she admitted she had not put much effort into her assignment. I had not been a fan of hers before that because she had issues with a close friend of mine. Story 51. She had the same name as another friend of mine. We were in a college class together in one of those huge rooms, and I was so excited to see that my friend was in there until I realized it was this other girl. I decided then that I hated her. It lasted about a month. Then we became friends, and now I have two friends with the exact same name. Story 52. Former coworker. My very first job was working weekends at a concession stand in a major society stadium in my hometown. I grew to hate the way she insistently pronounced the word jalapeno. She pronounced the J as a J sound instead of an H sound and the end as Pinot. It drove me mad, and one day I actually snapped at her. She teared up, and she was pregnant at the time, so needless to say I felt, and probably was, being very unkind. Story 53. She sat in my boyfriend's lap. We had just started going out, and she knew it. She only did it for a couple of seconds. My friends put their hands on my shoulders to keep me from getting up and doing something that would have been very bad. We were all in the same major. Story 54. A colleague of mine used to overuse capital letters. I would open an email with a maximum of 2 or 3 sentences, and they would be written in all capital letters to emphasize a particular point or word. It would enrage me, as if a workplace filled with educated people could not read or understand an email. It was petty, but I disliked her. Story 55. He made a comment about how it was very strange that I did not like sports, trying to impress a group of men who do like sports. Interestingly, they did not really care. Story 56. A friend was having a Halloween party. I was broke and didn't have money to buy a good costume, but he had face paint, so I dressed like I normally do. Baggy jeans, a baggy hoodie, and a beanie. I painted my face as Shaggy 2 Dope from Insane Clown Posse. Shaggy in promotional photos will pull faces. I was taking a selfie, pulling a classic Shaggy 2 Dope face, and this guy, whom I had never met before, shouted at the top of his voice, "Oh my God, he's pouting for a selfie." I told him off, put him in his place, and continued with my night. He tried to talk to me a couple of times during the night. I ignored him and walked away. I saw him a few more times at friends' parties and ignored him every time. Story 57. I was 8 years old, and my best and only friend told me that one of the girls in the class had bullied her in kindergarten. I took it upon myself to be unkind to her, like refusing to give her a pen if she asked for one. Story 58. I went on a group trip once where I had a seat I liked in the middle. On the way back, a girl took my spot and then had the nerve to say, "It's first come, first served." Believe me, I did not make that trip pleasant for her at all. To make matters worse, the girl switched back to the car she was in when we first left before reaching the final destination. I blocked her from the group chat afterward. Story 59. 2 of them are tied. The person who boasted about using a cheat modification on World of Warcraft that bypassed the early anti-cheat system, allowing infinite spells, no cooldowns, and no damage. A girl in high school who said, "I don't really like dogs. They are cute, but they smell weird, especially their feet." Story 60. People are not understanding the assignment and are giving valid reasons for not liking people. Story 61. She is pretty and very popular because my country admires East Asian beauty. She makes us feel invisible around men. Also, she constantly talks about herself, as some of our friends have noticed. When we are talking, she interrupts with her own story. I, who have the patience of a saint with people struggling mentally like her, sometimes wish she would stop seeking attention because everyone is already admiring her. What else could she want? Story 62. It usually has something to do with their faith in their religion. Inevitably, someone says a faith-based thinking trope, and then I get irritated and immediately dislike them. I keep trying to make friends with religious people because I enjoy having friends who think and see things differently from me, but religious people, or maybe my prejudice, always ruin it. Story 63. Her teeth. She was sexually attractive in all other ways. I loved what she did to me in bed, but she had messed up teeth. I could never get over it. I am a shallow idiot. Story 64. They were very overweight. I was an athlete. For some reason, I could not believe how far they really were. My friends and I left him in the mall because he could not walk anymore. I felt bad, but after a short while, I did not care. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.